In this lecture, we will discuss issues and management of Parali burning in India. In the last lectures, I discussed about the issues of agricultural based burning, that is also called Parali burning, that happens during these two periods. One is actually October, November, and then other is actually April, sometimes in April. So, when the wheat is harvested, and this October, November rice is harvested. So, these two periods kind of lots of air pollution are generated, but the impact of this agriculture based burning is more pronounced during this October, November compared to that in this April. So, I discussed this, why it is happening actually, and what are the factors that are contributing to this one. In this lecture, what we are going to I am going to discuss actually a little bit that what are the issues, and then how the management of how we can manage our Parali burning in India. Okay. So, these are some of the if you just list down what are the major environmental and climate change issues in front of us today. So, this is not limited to, this slide is not limited to the air pollution itself, but pollution in all the aspects, including food security, climate change, and emergence of new diseases, etc. So, if you talk about the pollution aspects, although this lecture is very specialized on the air pollution, but we are not limited to the pollution in the air itself. We often hear that our water is contaminated. The source of source of drinking water, for example, groundwater or river water, they are actually getting polluted day by day, and lots of mitigation strategies and plan is happening, but in reality it seems to be very important issue which needs an urgent attention, and immediate action has to be taken on this one. Not only that, the soil pollution has become another very big important issue, not only because of the over exploitation of the natural resources that are there in the soil, but input from the chemical fertilizers like urea, DAPs, diammonium phosphate and other things. So, because the farmers sometimes they are not aware of that how much actually fertilizers has to be supplied in the field, and they just see only the color of the leaves, and the leaf is not very green. They just see and they say, okay, I think there is some problem, let us supply some urea or some other fertilizers. What happens to that one? The fertilizers are not completely, fully not taken up by the plants, because you are supplying excess fertilizers. So, in that excess fertilizers, what will happen actually? That plants will take only what is actually needed. This is very important context when we compare human and plants. So, plants are kind of if you give them extra nutrients, they are not going to consume, but humans are very greedy actually in that sense. If you give some very good quality of food or things, they will consume more, but the plants they will not consume actually. So, of course, they will not consume more, but then because the photosynthesis, if you supply more, then what will happen? That nutrients remains unutilized. So, it is not utilized properly. That nutrient will either pollute the soil, and when the rain happens or they put water in the field, these fertilizers are dissolved, and then this will go deeper, penetrate into the soil, and it can reach into the aquifers as well. And in the rainy seasons, they can be actually surface water, they can be dissolved, and then they can be transported to the nearby water bodies like ponds or river or anything. So, this is becoming very important issue. Then the other very important pollutant is actually plastic pollutions, and you might have heard about microplastics and nanoplastics that is coming in the environment. That's of course is altogether a different topics of discussion, and I will restrict myself to the air pollution, but just to give you a glimpse of the things that are there actually, like then food and water security is becoming another very important issue in India. For example, crop productivity is reduced, there is a nutrient deterioration because the nutrient quality is not very good, and then the nutrients are not the kind of food that we produce, they are not rich in nutrients, their nutrients are deteriorated in that one. And then crop productivity is reduced because you keep on harvesting the same crop, and actually the soil quality becomes poor, and when the soil quality becomes poor, of course the plant's growth and then production of the crops will reduce. Then I talk about groundwater depletion and groundwater contamination. This is actually becoming a very big issue. This is not only limited to the agricultural field, but it is also related to the industries that we are actually having. Okay, so from the industry, lots of sewage waste is generated, and it is actually put into the water, either in the ground, directly into the rivers or ponds or any nearby aquatic systems. If they are not going to the aquatic systems, they are actually localized somewhere, and then through percolation they can reach into the groundwater, and then where they can deplete this one. Groundwater depletion is really becoming a very big challenge, because India is an agriculture rich country. So and unfortunately we don't have throughout the year we don't have the rainfall. So rainfall is restricted during June, July, August and September. So what will happen after during this period? That's why most of the rice is cultivated in this period, because rice needs lots of water. But what can you think a situation where the other things like wheat is harvested, or the like sugar canes are there, they still need water to grow, and then water is usually in India is supplied by the groundwater. So the groundwater extraction is becoming very important issue. So if you are extracting more of groundwater, you are not replenishing the groundwater, you are not recharging the aquifer zones, you are going to deplete that one. Okay. Then climate change, obviously it's a very broad topic, and almost everything you can fit into the umbrella of climate change, and it's mostly because of the result in the greenhouse gas emissions, as well as some of the particulate matters that absorb the radiation. For example, black carbon. We must have heard about urban heat island effect. This is where the urban areas are actually having more warmer the urban areas appear to be more warmer than rural areas, because of these things, that lots of greenhouse emissions. Of course, you say that okay, greenhouse gases has a long lifetime, so the concentration must be actually will be almost like similar everywhere. So it is homogeneous, but it's not homogeneous. In a localized system it is there, and then lots of concrete buildings are there, so they trap the radiation during the daytime, and when the night or the evening the sun radiation is not there, they re-emit the radiation into the atmosphere. That leads to the urban heat effect. You must be realizing this year that okay, it's we are almost like into the last week of November, or just penultimate week of the November, and the cold is still not there. So for example, I just giving the lectures here in the, of course I am in the room, so indoor the temperature is outside, the temperature is not too low actually compared to what used to be earlier. So that is another very big issue. Then you have extreme weather events like heavy rainfall in a very short span of time at some places, and drought like condition in other places. This is becoming a big situation, and this is not only this one, that there is actually shift in rainfall pattern, as well the spatial heterogeneity in the rainfall pattern. So that is another big issue. Then you are having actually more kind of colder, specifically localized cold and hot weathers. Especially we must have this year we experienced almost like temperature going to as high as 47, 48 in Indo-Gangetic plain itself. It was a very huge temperature, and in my laboratory I could not run our samples GCMS and onchromatography, because most of the instruments they need a temperature somewhere around room temperature plus minus 5 or so. So you have to maintain 30 to 35 degrees centigrade or lower, but the temperature was too hot, and then even the air conditions were not working in some sense. Okay, so that is another very big issue. Then we are experiencing biodiversity loss. Yes, this is another very big issue, and which needs to be tackled. Lots of ecological scientists are working in this one and talking about lots of things on these issues. Then we have melting of the glaciers. lots of glaciers are melting actually, Himalayan glaciers, not only the Himalayan glaciers but the glaciers and Antarctic and Arctic, they are also melting, and they are melting in very faster rate. So that is, these are the things that are actually linked to the climate change. And then of course this is not a one way kind of connection. Climate change affect these things, and these processes affect climate change. So this is actually, they are interconnected, almost like everything you can just put, you just need to connect the dot properly. So if you connect the dot properly, you can see lots of things that are connected, interconnected. Then emergence of new viral disease and pandemic. This is again becoming a very big problem because of the poor hygiene, poor water and air quality. New diseases are coming and pandemics are happening. For example, we have heard about COVID-19 in 2019. That was a very big kind of a pandemic that we had everywhere. Viral seasons and everything are increasing. If you are residing somewhere close to the very place where the hygiene is not maintained, then you can experience some kind of more of diseases in this one. So then development of new drugs, vaccine and sanitizers, lots of things are happening in this one. And because of this one, when you put lots of develop new drugs, you are actually going to put more of what you call antimicrobial or biotics that you have to give them. And when you are giving the antibiotics to them, these antibiotics sometimes becomes resistant to the person. So you need to develop again a new antibiotic with this one. Okay, this is very interesting slides, and I like these slides discussing with all the generation people, and especially to young minds, that yeah, we had very good culture, very big culture. We were so rich in our ancient culture that India was, or actually is, if I just call it, although it is a question mark, known to be one of the most aware country about pollution and sustainable growth. In fact, Indian philosophy strongly believed in the concept of sustainability and treated most of the things, creatures, natural systems, either God or goddess. We worship them actually, okay? And we believe in Chiti Jal Pavak Gagan Samira Panch Rachit Adhi Adham Sarira. So we know that our body is made of 5 very important elements. Chiti means soil, Jal means water, Pavak means Agni, Gagan means Akash, and Samira means air. So these are the 5 ingredients that our body is actually made, and that is one of the reasons that we always try to protect them. In ancient scriptures in India, we emphasized on the protection of Dharti Mata, and that's why we call it Mother Earth actually, right? So we call it Mother Earth, and when you call mothers to earth, actually you not only call, you just somehow have a kind of spiritual and then mindful connections, like you have a mother, you have connected to your mother in that way. So this is another very important thing. We believed in existence of human beings in peace with these 5 natural elements that I talk about: soil, water, and then fire, and then akash, and then air. So these are the things that we believed already, and this is not only that. In the ancient culture, we believed that importance of the soil to the well-beings of the human. This was very well protected actually, and sustainable and efficient use of the water and other natural resources is also highlighted even in Qurans and other holy books. So this is actually very big important thing that we had in agriculture practices, as discussed above, must be adopted by the farmers. And of course this is actually a different story, that how, because the farmers are also under the pressure that they not only have to produce high quantity, but they have also to maintain the quality as well actually. So if you cannot have both actually, both are not actually sustainable. You have to compromise on either one of them. So for example, if you are compromising on the productivity, or you want to have less productivity, then you can have a good quality of products, but if you want more production, then quality will certainly going to be down. So this is another important thing. So what will happen, because the farmers, the things that they need and they use in the agriculture day to day daily life, it is the cost is increasing. For example, electricity cost is increasing, you have more daily wages, you don't get now you don't get very easily people to do your agriculture activities. So this is becoming a very big problem. So when the cost is increasing, the farmers try to increase their productivity, and that's how their earning is. So they in some way they lose the kind of things. And this is another very important things, the importance of trees in our ancient culture. So how these things were connected, we believe that this is called Panchvati Vatika, and we believe that where these kind of trees should be actually planted. For example, Bargad, I don't really recall the name, that what is the exactly English or the botanical name. So Bargad used to be in the Paschim, west side. Why? Can you imagine? Because it has very big branches and very big tree, and during the summer season the westerly will be there, and then westerly will bring lots of dust to the other places. And if you are putting lots of trees of Bargad before your village, what will happen? These trees will they will not allow the dust to be transported to your village or other places. So that's why the Bargad was there. And then you have people in the east actually, okay, and then Ashok and Amla, of course, and then Amla and Bale, these are actually like very nutritious food and then nutrient rich, so you need them actually. So these are the things that were there actually in our ancient culture itself. So the question that comes automatically to our mind, that where did we went wrong? This is very important question that we need to ask ourselves and to our ancestors, and we need to tell to our coming generations. We, in my opinion, we unknowingly or knowingly overexploited our natural resources to cater our needs. Of course, there is a need and there is a greed actually. So you need something, okay, you can do that one, but if you are greedy, you will actually overexploit the resources. So that's what is happening. We become greedy and not only overexploited our natural resources, but also polluted them. Overexploitation is one thing. You are overexploited some of the part of the natural resources, but at the same time you have polluted them. Now if you have overexploited, probably there is something that you can restore, but if it is polluted, then you have to do two things actually. You have to first restore and then remove the pollution from there. That becomes very difficult things, and each sphere of the earth in India is now polluted. This very unfortunate situations that not only atmosphere, biosphere, lithosphere, cryosphere, everything is polluted. So this is really very alarming situation, and we only now understand, or probably began to understand, sorry for the typo, it should be began to understand that resources are limited and we must use them judiciously. And this is probably one of the reasons you see in last few years lots of institutes have come on sustainability. There is an institute of sustainability, there is sustainability centers are coming. IITs are actually putting lots of effort in making institute on sustainability. You can imagine a situation that institutes like IITs, which are actually basically technical institutions, they are putting efforts on technology, on sustainability. And probably the important thing here is that probably they must combine, or we must combine, that how the technology can be used to restore these systems. Okay, so what is actually, can India stop its pollution and standard of living? This is a very big question that we are facing. It is not possible, because India is still a developing country, so in principle it cannot stop its growth. So industries cannot be shut down. You cannot just have a infrastructure, cannot be just shut down. But and then of course the standard of living, we have not reached to the standard of living, and if we stop here, people will think, oh, what will happen to that. But yes, it is of course not possible for India, but we cannot actually pressurize the ecosystem. This is very important. Or we should not pressurize the ecosystem and we should not overexploit them. We need food, energy to cater a huge population. The population in India is already at a very high rate, very high population we have. And at the same time, the population is increasing at a very alarming rate. So the population is increasing, natural resources are reducing, the productivity is reducing, the quality of the grains that you get is deteriorated. Now the problem is that what will happen? You can imagine yourself that it is going to be one of the big problems. We are actually in the middle of a situation where we have to think whether we have to go for accelerated development and other things, or we have to de-accelerate ourselves and focus on sustainable development rather than kind of going in a unprecedented way of acceleration. We need a sustainable solution. Yes, that's very important. And if I just give you an example, what we can learn from the two neighboring countries, big countries, China and Japan. So I stayed in Japan for almost like 2 years, and during this period they provided me the data. Of course, I was there in 2011 and 12. They provided me the data. This is actually on the y-axis, you see, is black carbon. Black carbon is actually a kind of marker for incomplete combustion. So this tells that the black carbon, majority of the black carbon sources are incomplete combustion, whether it could be a fossil fuel emission or biomass burning. But mostly it is coming from the black carbon is mostly coming from the fossil fuel emission. And when we say fossil fuel emissions, it's actually industry or vehicles. Okay, these are the two things, are electricity generated things like thermal power plants. So these are the places where actually black carbon is used. And one of the very important source of black carbon is vehicular emission, are the coals that we use in the thermal power plants, because there is actually incomplete combustion happens and black carbon is emitted strongly. And if you see here in 2003, the concentration was about somewhere around 2.5 to 3.5 microgram per cubic meter. Kindly note, this itself is a very high concentration, and within 7-8 years of span of time they reduced it below 0.5 microgram per cubic meter. This is a commendable job, and this is, I will come to that what they did actually, and this is what kind of intervention is needed. Similarly, if you can look at it for Beijing, the curve is like here, PM 2.5 and PM 10. The only problem is with this ozone is increasing, tropospheric ozone is increasing, but other pollutants are declining actually. So this is very good situation for even China, which has gone development. It has seen a huge development in the last 2 decades or so, 2 to 3 decades. Problem with India is that neither India has seen such kind of development like China has, nor it has been remaining to sustainable to resources. We are actually the efficiency of use of the resources, if I just put in these terms, it is not very good. So we are not efficiently utilizing our resources. Okay. So what they did, and I am giving the example of Japan. Japan did in 2002 or 2003, early 2003, they established a very good quality source characterization and apportionment studies. They monitored the pollutants to the greater accuracy and established major emission sources regions, and they actually find out that what are the major emission sources. They implemented stringent regulations on the emissions, followed up not only they put these stringent regulations on emissions, they very strictly followed. They strictly followed and regulated industrial emissions. They removed all the vehicles more than 10 years old from the road, especially heavy duty ones. Now you imagine a situation, we are still not on the top of our industrial productivity, and if you just remove more than 10 years vehicle, it's not quite possible in India. There will be again a very huge cry, and it will be kind of a political chaos might be created. So, no government would like to do this one. Okay, although Delhi government did this one, and they are actually doing in a better way, but still you see the pollution in Delhi, has it reduced? No, it's not actually. The pollution in Delhi has still remains the same. So, the probably what could you say from this, that probably they have not been, the sources have not been probably very well understood. Japan, they managed agriculture waste by converting into useful product. I will come to that later. They are shifting towards renewable energy resources and reduce dependency on the coal. This is very important, and we are situated in such a place where the probably renewable energy resources can be very optimally used. For example, solar plants. This is one of the things, and India is going to be a huge, India is already playing a very big role in this one. So, we are going to play another big role in the renewable energy resources. So, let us see how we go in this one, and if we just shut down all the thermal power plants that we have and just be self-reliant on the renewable energy, it would be commendable, because we have almost throughout the year, unlike the rain, we have all over the throughout the year we have a very good sunlight. So, that can be used. They did very well planned awareness programs to the public, and public also understood the problem and took it very seriously. Okay. So, we know emission sources and quantification little better now. So, we need to prioritize the managing high emitting sources, Parali burning, heavy duty vehicles and industries, etc. We just do not need to implement stringent regulations on the emission, but follow up regulated these regulations. This is very important. If we do not follow up and we do not find out the defaulters, they are going to keep on adding to the system, they will be giving the lots of pollutants, and we need to shift towards the renewable energy. I said that one. We also need to have awareness programs to the public stakeholders who also need to understand and these things. India is already doing this one very good in this one, because they are giving lots of subsidies on the gas cylinders for cooking purposes. PM Ujjwala Yojana is already there. Solar plants, already we are getting the subsidies from the government, so that can also be used for this purpose. So, there are many things that can be linked together, and through this lecture I would like to young generations, to encourage you that you also look into these problems and you see that what are the other sustainable solutions that can come from the Parali burning or kind of things. So, if you just see management of agriculture waste burning is just a case study, can we blame to the farmers? I think no, you cannot just blame the farmers, you have to give them a proper solution. The solution is not there to the farmers, and farmers are actually not highly educated in India as it's seen actually. So, they do not know, they just know that if they have a matchstick and they just put one matchstick and then completely their field is free, and they do not care that where the pollution is going out. Of course, they know that their family or then somebody from their family or the relative or some, of course, will be affected, but yeah, that is how they do actually. They do not know, or we do not have given the sustainable solutions. Technologies do exist today, but they need a practical solution that needs to be scaled up. This is a big problem. Technologies are there, but they are only on a large scale or in a very smaller scale. For example, Indian Council of Agriculture Research, they have already proposed a decomposer. They have produced in 2022 itself, so almost like 2 years back. But it's not very, has not reached into the market, or even it is reached to the market, it has not reached to the farmers. Biochar production, Professor Mohan is there in JNU probably or Delhi University. He is doing lots of activities on biochar production, and we need to do converting more of these things into useful problem. The biggest problem with the farmers is that for the converting into the useful products or the energy, all these processes are very slow, and some of the waste, these agricultural waste, they have very low calorific value. So, they actually are not very good for the energy purposes until they are actually mixed with some other fuel. If you produce some products, for example, this was actually taken up very seriously, tables, chairs, they are not very stable. So, the market is not there. Nobody want to buy a chair, or even it's a very sustainable, but they will not like to buy if it is going to be, in 2 years it is gone. No, they are not going to. You have plastic chairs, you can use it up to 5 years, 6 years, 7 years or so. So nobody is going to use these kind of things. The biggest problem is that the time gap for the farmers to sowing the new crop is very less. For example, they only get 15 to 20 days or a maximum a month to sow for the sowing of the wheat crop just after the rice crop. So because so in these small periods, the decomposer kind of things, this is not going to decompose their agricultural waste. So what they will do? They just find very small solution or kind of. So there is actually, I have been talking with some, because Japanese have been doing wonderful in this one. North Egypt, I heard that they are doing really very well in the agriculture productivity. They use the rice straws as a material for making papers, animal products and fertilizers. They did this one, and this can be done in India as well. Secondly, we need to focus on the strategy which works before burning. Okay. So, this is something, for example, develop technologies to cut the wheat or straw into smaller pieces, say 5 to 10 centimeters, and then cultivate it to the ground by the tractor or so. So, if once it is there in the below in the soil, it will decompose. If it is not decomposed today, it will decompose tomorrow, or say in just a month or so, but it will give a very good solution. Let the soil and microbe do their job. Once it is in the soil, then microbes and then soil itself will do the job. Agriculture waste are used as nutrients and fertilizers for the next crop, and this kind of agriculture waste that is there, they can be actually used. For example, the carbon, one of the very important source is carbon. So carbon can be used from this agricultural wastes, which can be used as a fertilizers for the next crop. And this is already in the practice in the Japan. Several movies and field operations are there. So I thank you here for your attention, and I think this is a kind of lecture that a sort of scientific as well as more of oriented towards the public awareness, and you young guns that will be taking the leads in this field. So you have bigger responsibilities to play. So you should be actually doing, and then of course we will be there, we will be helping, and I don't know how far we can help you, but yeah, this is very important. Parali waste burning or agriculture waste burning, I talked about. Similarly, there are small scale burning, especially the leaves that are actually falling on the ground, they are actually not used for some purpose. At least we need to develop a kind of solution that these kind of leaves can be used, collected, and they can be used for producing the organic rich material kind of fertilizers. This is very important, and that's what is the need of the hour. So agriculture waste burning will continue to be a big issue until and unless we find a sustainable solution which is not only good for the environment, it will be good for us. Then it should have economical values, and then economically it is feasible. Scientifically and technically, scientific and technological issues that are different things, but then this is another very important issue that we need to discuss. In the next lectures, we will see what are different types of fuels that we use in India, and how the combustion efficiency, how the combustion processes are different, what is the chemical composition that are different in these kind of things, fuels. So if these fuels are used, which fuel is more having more calorific value, and which is having a very high combustion efficiency, giving less of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter emissions, carbonaceous aerosols. So we will discuss this in the next lecture. Until then, thank you and bye bye.